so much for coming in and being with us today at this month's immigration Q&A session. If you don't recognize me, my name is Chris Aviles. I am the Senior Program Manager at TheDream.Us for our scholar and partner college supports. And so I will be managing our Q&A sessions for the remainder of the semester. So hopefully you'll get to know me, and please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or concerns. Today, we're doing things a little bit different. I know that you guys, for our people who repeatedly come for these sessions, know our partner, Dan, who is our attorney and really is able to answer any of your immigration questions. We're flipping it up a little bit different this month, and we're going to be joined by another one of our partners, Miriam Martinez Hernandez, who is the Program Servicing Manager at Mission Asset Fund. And we've been working with MOF for a few years now, and so it's a pleasure and an honor for us to be able to have them come in and present to our scholars and provide you a little bit more information about the services and programs that they provide that you would be able to have access to and be able to connect with them as well as the Dream.Us. So we have a long sort of presentation today, and I want to make sure that we get through everything. So without any further delay, I will pass this off to Miriam.
Hi, everyone. Let me share my screen real quick with you all. So my name is Miriam. As Chris has told you, I am coming here from Mission Asset Fund, which is better known as MOF. MOF is a nonprofit organization that is founded in San Francisco, California. We provide financial assistance to people across the country, nationwide. And our mission is to help people become visible, active, and successful in their financial lives. We have been serving immigrant communities for over 16 years, and we hope to continue serving you all today. So just a little quick disclaimer is that this presentation is for informational purposes only. We always recommend that you reach out to a legal or tax or financial advisor if you need additional information, because everyone's financial situation is very different. Now, today I will cover what MOF's DACA Fee Assistance Program is, what our program requirements are, and what our application process looks like. And I will also talk to you all a little bit about our MOF immigration loans and other financial services we offer, as well as answer any questions you all may have. Now, our DACA Fee Assistance Program for the TheDream.Us is tailored specifically for you as scholars to provide financial assistance to DACA recipients that are facing challenges to cover the USCIS application fees associated with the renewal process. The program provides direct assistance to those who meet our eligibility criteria. And this is what we require from you all in order to start your application, is to be eligible to apply for your DACA renewal. Be ready to submit your DACA application to USCIS. We do ask that you provide a photo of your EAD. We will need you to have a checking account and provide some kind of income. Usually that is self-reported. If we do require anything else, our team will definitely get back to you and let you know what that is. But these are pretty much the basics and just like the straightforward view of what our DACA Fee Assistance Program is like. And there are 3 steps to our application process. It's a pre-application. Then we will receive an invite via email to apply to the full application, and then you will get the checks. So again, to pre-apply, you must be eligible for DACA, have your paperwork ready to submit to USCIS, and then you can submit our pre-application. We do ask that you submit your pre-application with about 6 months left on your EAD, just to make sure that we can get the checks to you in a timely manner and that they get to you on time for you to be able to submit your DACA renewal, as USCIS suggests to submit it between 4 to 5 months. Now, we suggest that you apply online for our MOF DACA Fee Assistance. This is how our program works. You can go to our link here, and I will also provide you a QR code at the end so that you can go directly to our website. And then once you submit your pre-application, you will submit another application, just some additional information required. you will get these checks. You actually will receive your checks in the mail, and they will be made out directly to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. And then once you get your checks in the mail, you can submit them with your DACA application to the USCIS filing center, depending on where you are in the country. Now, here is our QR code. This one will take you directly to our pre-application if you are ready to start on that. I do want to add some additional information that our checks are valid for up to 6 months. So even if you want to make sure that you do get them on time, you can always submit it 8, 7 months ahead of time, so that you can get them and you are sure. I know we all kind of like to have that peace of mind, especially being a DACA myself. I know I'm ready and like ready to go and prepared, right? So feel free to do that. Once again, we will send them to you. The other thing I do want to add is we are currently not supporting online applications. These checks have to be physically mailed to USCIS. And that is also why we asked y'all to submit it with, quite a few months ahead of time, just to make sure that you do receive it. Now, next, we are going to talk about MAF's immigration loans. So the first one is our DACA Fee Assistance Grant. Again, our grant is something that you do not have to pay back. These are specifically geared to you all, and our grants, basically, we provide the funds, and TheDream.Us as well. So immigration loans, for immigration loans, this is a loan. It is 0 interest, and it'll help you pay your USCIS application fee depending on the immigration filing you are submitting. They are broken down into 10 monthly payments, and it does help build your credit history. So these are the type of USCIS filing fees that we covered: citizenship, DACA, green card, petition for immigrant relatives, TPS, or in many cases, I know for you all, since if you are DACA recipients, advanced parole, right? If you want to travel outside the country, you don't have the funds immediately, or you just want to pay it 10 months because you're also going to spend some money when you travel outside the country, this is, the way to go. And here's an example of how you would pay this back. So let's say, for example, for a green card you're filing, it's the total fee for USCIS is $1,225. We break that down into 10 months, and your monthly payment is going to be $122.50. And that is how all of our immigration loans are structured. So any loan that you apply for immigration purposes, it'll be broken down into those 10 monthly payments. And again, 0% interest. So it doesn't get any better than that. Now, same thing. This is how our program works for immigration loans. You apply online, and here's our bit.ly link. But I will also provide you with a QR code if you want to take a picture or capture it. Again, we will issue you the checks made out to U.S. Department of Homeland Security, and these will be submitted with your USCIS application. And here is that QR code. And I also did provide this to Chris, so he can also share the QR codes if you haven't captured them yet. Now, in addition to these, we also have additional resources for you all. We conduct charlas financieras, usually about once a month. And these cover financial topics, tools, and tips to support you in your financial journey. They are free, they are online, and they're offered in English and Spanish. So all of these products that we're talking about, or programs that we're talking about, please note that yes, you can apply for, but if you have friends or family who are not the TheDream.Us scholars, you can also share this with them as well. We are here to support our communities, and we provide these services whether you are enrolled in a program with a MAF or not. These are free to everyone. And let me see, as well as our My MAF app is also free to download. This can be really useful for anybody who's trying to set some financial goals, get some financial education. If you are enrolled in one of our programs, we can also provide you with our FICO score, which provides you with a view of your credit score and how it's doing while you're enrolled in our program. So these can be really good resources if you just want to get some more financial services or education or anything like that. And you can download that here as well. Depending on what kind of phone you have. I'm not a big Apple person, so for me, it's my Androids, but to each their own. And please stay connected with us. We have our website. If you have any questions, you can always feel free to email us at our programs at missionassetfund.org, or visit Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Um, you can message us through that as well, and we will answer any questions you all may have or provide you with any other resources that we as an organization have as well. So anybody have any questions?
Miriam, so we do have one question in the chat already. Hi, would you guys deny paying the DACA renewal fee depending on one's income?
So for the Dream.Us, we specifically have the DACA fee assistance grant, which means that you wouldn't have to repay that back. That is just a grant that we are offering you all because you are the Dream.Us scholar. Now, for example, for our immigration loans, because that is credit reporting, we do have to look into, okay, will you be able to afford this payment? Um, Please note that we are very flexible in working with anybody that applies for a loan. We will look at your own personal income, but let's say, for example, you live with your parents, or somebody else in your household is working. We can look at their income to see if that would help, kind of get you through that threshold of how much you need to earn. So not necessarily. I think, we definitely do look at the income, but don't be afraid to apply. We always suggest you submit an application, and our team will get back to you. We do try to work with everybody that submits an application.
Thank you, Miriam. We have another question. So if we plan to apply for our DACA renewal in a month, is it best not to apply until next time?
If you are trying to apply within a month, I would suggest go ahead, submit your pre-application, and definitely send us an email at that programs at missionassetfund.org, and let us know that, right? Communicate to us that, hey, I submitted my pre-application and was wondering if, somebody can look into this, so that I can get it, so that I can get my check on time. And I will definitely, I keep an eye on those, and we'll try to expedite as much as possible. But we always do ask because we have a workload as well. So we try to get everyone to submit with a little bit of leeway so that we are all happy with the end results. So.
Great. I think you answered this through the presentation, but I'll just make sure. What are the interest rates like for an immigration loan?
So all of our loans are 0% interest. We do have other loans that we have at MOF, like other programs, but all of them are 0% interest. Yeah, so like whatever you borrow is what you pay back, basically.
That's awesome. Can someone with TPS be able to get the grant?
So no, because these are specifically tailored to DACA fee assistance grants, and these are specifically tailored for the Dream.Us scholars. But someone with TPS can apply for our loans, and based on their application, like I said, we will review and get back to them as to, how much it would be, how much the payment would be, and what amount we would cover.
Should I renew my DACA even though it expires in February 2025?
I think I'm gonna leave that one for Jocelyn, since I am not too familiar with that aspect of it.
Perfect. How long do the checks last for? My DACA expires in April of 2024, and I was wondering when the best time would be to apply for this grant.
So our checks last for 6 months. They are valid for 6 months. So as long as you submit your application within that time period. Well, let me actually restate that. Our checks don't really have an expiration fee, But we have seen in some instances that USCIS will not accept or return an application if the checks are over 6 months. So that's why we say that we suggest that you submit it within that 6 month period. I will let you know that if for any reason you just weren't able to renew within that 6 month period, you can always contact us and we can reissue the check to you as long as it has not been used.
Awesome. We do have a question that I kind of want to get a little bit more clarity on in terms of what specific program. So I kind of put that in the chat for Frida. If you could just clarify a little bit more on which program you're looking for, to determine whether it is just for DACA or on DACA as well. But in the meantime, while we get some clarity on that, we do have some more questions. I have a question, but not about the presentation. Should I wait or should I ask now? We can wait till the end of the entire presentation for that. I think that is all of the questions we have thus far in. Hi, is the DACA renewal grant only for Dream.Us?
Yes, the DACA fee assistance grant is for the Dream.Us. We do have other funds to provide, but the other ones are specifically geared to people who are living or working in San Francisco. And I know because you guys are national, I just only shared about the Dream.Us.
I think those are all of the questions specifically. So there is a question that I think I can sort of manage. So, I graduated in 2020, but was a Dream.Us scholar. Do I still qualify? And so the exciting answer to that is that we have actually just made some changes to the criteria to expand it over to our alumni. And we should be rolling that out really soon. We are working with MOF to make some changes or some adjustments to the current application so that we can sort of specify that it is now available to our alumni as well. So look out for that, and that information should be coming out soon. All right, so in the interest of time, I am going to lead into our next presenter. So Miriam, if you could stop sharing your screen, because I know that she also has a PowerPoint that she wants to share. And what we will do is continue to put in your questions in the chat, whether they are for Miriam or for our new presenter, Jocelyn. And once the presentation is done, we will again just do a full recap and make sure that we're answering as much as possible all of your questions. So for our next part of the presentation, many of you already know Jocelyn Aranda Ortiz, with the Family Support Network Coordinator for Illinois' Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights. So Jocelyn, handing it over to you.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Miriam. I learned so much from your presentation. I was taking notes. So shout out for all the good work you all have been doing. And, shout out to everyone on this call for, making the time today to come through and being able to share the space with you all. So as Chris mentioned, my name is Jocelyn Aranda Ortiz. I am the FSN coordinator at ICER. I know Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights is such a huge tongue twister, because it's so long, so we go short by ICER. And today we're going to be going through very quickly about knowing your rights. This is a national presentation that we do provide, so it's more generalized. So if you have more specific questions, just feel free to put it in the chat, and we are going to open the conversation towards the end. All right. So I always like to read our mission verbatim. I feel like it's a very powerful mission that we have. So the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights is dedicated to promoting the rights of immigrants and refugees to full and equal participation in the civic, cultural, social, and political life of our diverse society. We always say things are a lot easier said than done, right? We live in a society that is so strained on the history that we have, and essentially pushing back essentially can cause a lot of chaos, right? So with that being said, we like to provide these types of presentations to our community members. We want to make sure that our community members are in a safe place where they can understand that them knowing their rights is just as powerful as anybody else telling them what to do. And like I mentioned before, if our community members know what is going on within their community and they need to find a way to defend themselves. Let me turn off my camera really quick because I think I am lagging. So give me a second. So I always say, our community members, when they feel powerful, they always want to defend themselves, right? And that is the great thing that we can always do. Make sure that our community members are safe and they understand that when they speak up, that is the most powerful thing they can do. And that's one of the scariest things that people don't want to see. All right, so this is going to be our overview for today. We're going to be reviewing our rights with basically almost every authority that you can think of, with the police, with immigration, police versus immigration at work, and the overall national resource that we do have. So we're going to talk on the federal aspect of it. Miriam already touched on DACA, so shout out to you for doing that. And now we're going to touch on specifically the limits on ICE enforcement, specifically the end on workplace rates. And that's something that we're going to touch on the next slide. But essentially, in 2021, it was official that workplace rates nationally in the United States are not allowed. The only reason that ICE agents should ever show up to someone's workplace specifically should be if they are searching or inspecting I-9 forms, right? An I-9 form essentially says that you are legally being able to work at the place that you're currently working at, right? We want to make sure that the employees and employers have a good relationship, just in case if anything were to show up, the employer would be able to actually give their employees a good enough warning that ICE will be showing up that day to pick up those forms. We're going into public charge. I always say public charge is such a big topic that we talk about, right? We're not going to talk about it in this presentation just because it is such a lengthy topic. And it's tricky, right? So essentially, public charge is a federal law that was implemented a really long time ago, essentially saying that depending on your immigration status, you are not able to apply to specific public programs, public benefit programs. Essentially, with this being said, there's two main programs that we always emphasize. One is cash assistance, and two is essentially public benefits for institutionalization, meaning like Medicare. And Medicare specifically only for two different versions, right? Because you think of Medicare, we think of a lot of different things. It's only specifically if you are being institutionalized for a long period of time. There has not been a ruling on what that means, unfortunately, and what a long period of time is. But essentially, I can definitely send more information after this. I don't want to get anyone scared or anyone nervous about this topic. So I'll make sure to follow up with more information on that too. All right, and now we just talked about workplace rates, right? Essentially, this was a memorandum that was passed in 2021. Its anniversary just passed, and essentially basically said that ICE agents have to give workplaces at least a 72-hour notice before showing up to inspect I-9 forms. If they are not giving that notice within 72 hours, and if they show up, they legally cannot inspect those I-9 forms whatsoever. And the only reason they should be going into workplaces is if they were to have a warrant against a worker themselves, and it has to be very, very specific, which is the reason we always say it is really important, whether it's a school, university, whatever it is, for us to have at least 3 trained staff on how to navigate that conversation with ICE agents, right? We just don't want to protect ourselves, but we want to protect our staff overall that are essentially, that could be a target for ICE, that could be a target for basically any authority and where we're working at. All right, so I am going to touch on the reason why I'm here, right, as of today. And essentially, with that being said, we all have rights regardless of our immigration status, right? We have a right to remain silent because anything that we say can and will be used against you. We always say this because it has been done and it's in our history for it always to be done. So we always say remain silent. That is a right that you have. Speak with and be represented by an attorney. If you need an attorney, I know in Illinois, since the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights specifically focuses in Illinois, but we do have national partners across the United States that are able to provide low to free cost legal services. Third is request a telephone call. You know, we always say to memorize people's phone numbers, and I always make a joke out of this. And the reason is because I will never, ever memorize my mom's phone number, right? You know, I love my mom wholeheartedly, but I know she will not pick up the phone when it's an emergency. When it has to do with chisme, you know, she will be the first to pick up that phone. But I will know for sure that if something were to happen to me, I cannot rely on her to pick up the phone when I need it, right? So we want to make sure that we are connected and internalizing at least 3 phone numbers that we know that people will actually pick up and know what to do in the aftermath. Who do they need to contact? Do they know where to locate me at? Do they know where to find me? So making sure that the people that we are relying on are also prepped on this situation. All right, and now we're going to different government agencies, right? And their insignias and or their badges. I know in the first one I put Chicago Police Department. Depending where you are at, this badge will definitely look different. I put this as an example. And as you can see, we have CPD, so you know your local police authorities. We have TSA, we have ICE, we have Customs and Borders Protection, and we have Homeland Security Investigations. All of these agencies are basically there to do different things and different duties. The reason I want to emphasize this specific slide is because, as you can see, these badges all look different, right? Some of them might have similarities, whether it's the color, whether it's the format, or whether it's the eagle in the middle of it, right? The reason I mentioned this specific slide is because there has been instances where ICE agents go to people's doors and knock, and they're dressed as police officers. I say this because it has happened. It recently happened, I want to say as of last year, from the last case that we have heard that, you know, they're dressed up as like police officers. And when people open the door thinking it's okay, they'll get deported, right? Which is the reason we have the right to say, who are you with, right? With what authority are you with? Who do you represent? And they have to legally tell you, right? And there's a different thing between what they're wearing and what they are saying. I always say, if you're not comfortable with opening the door, do not open the door, right? And this is going to be a true or false question. So I'm going to stop right here for like a minute. And I'm going to say, you're going to tell me in the chat, you can unmute yourself, whatever you're comfortable with, and tell me, it is okay for you to open the door if a ICE agent or police officer comes to your house.
No.
Okay. We can put true or false in the chat. Okay, we got some responses. All right, so we're all on the same page. False, correct. So that's what we love to hear. You know, that is completely false. If an ICE agent or a police officer comes to your door, do not open that door. Most likely they will not even knock. The first thing they will do is most likely turn your doorknob. And if they see that it's open, they will walk themselves in, like if they're welcomed, right? That's the reason we always say lock your doors. All right, now what to do with the police, right? There's always something going on and we want to make sure that we're good to go, right? So what the police do, tell them your name, but nothing else. You know, do tell the police you want to remain silent and talk to a lawyer, and they should stop questioning you after that, right? And this is something if you know you are going to be detained, right? If you are driving and you were pulled over and you know you're going to be detained, or they're letting you know you're going to be detained, which they have to let you know, you can ask, right? If you can park the car somewhere else, you know, that way you avoid basically any fees. Your car will be somewhere safe. You know, avoid any towings or impounding fees. I know in the city of Chicago, these fees are ridiculous. So essentially, you know, making sure that you are also financially okay in that situation. What not to do? Do not lie to the police, right? Do not sign any document you do not understand, and don't discuss your citizenship or immigration status with anyone besides your lawyer. I always make this very, very specific, and the reason is because there has been situations where police officers or ICE agents will, will befriend you, and, some of them don't have the worst intentions, but we have to understand that the history of authorities and institutionalizations have been to police and surveillance our people, right? So with that being said, we also have to understand that some of them can definitely be nice and some of them may not have the best intentions. And there has been situations where these officers or agents tell people, if you sign this document, you're free to go. Most likely than not, that document will say that you are giving up your whole autonomy and your rights to that officer that give you that paper. Now they're able to detain you. They can deport you. You might not even have a right to representation because you signed that one document. So we want to make sure that all of that is covered. And if they give you a piece of paper, just if you have the ability to read it, feel free. You also have a right to ask for an interpreter. And with immigration, what to do? Remain silent. Like I mentioned, I feel like this is very repetitive. Remain silent because anything that you say can be and will be used against you. If you are detained and you are cuffed by an officer, you also have a right to not speak to them, but also request a lawyer. Then we always say, if they're at your house, right? I said, lock your doors, lock your windows, lock everything that you can think of. So with that being said, they are not able to enter private property unless they have a judicial warrant. And there's a difference between an immigration warrant and a judicial warrant, and we're gonna definitely talk about it right now. If they say they do have a warrant, you have the right to say, can you slide it under the door? You have a right to say, can you put it against the window? I want to see it. You also have a right to take pictures, and you have a right to Google a lot of the information that's in that warrant. What not to do with immigration? Do not carry any false documents. Do not lie. Don't sign any document you don't understand. And do not discuss your citizenship or immigration status. Like I said, it's very repetitive, but that way it can be instilled in us just in case, hopefully the universe forbids that ever happens to any of us in this call, right? But with that being said, we can be prepared on what to expect. Now we have a judicial search warrant. I always say this is really important because warrants are universal, right? We want to make sure that we understand the warrant, what should we be looking for and why. So we have a perfect example right here. As you can see on the left side of the screen, this is a whole entire warrant for the District of Minnesota. It has to be very, very detailed. If the warrant is not detailed as it should be, that warrant is invalid. So with that being said, as you can see here on the bottom left, it shows the company they want to have access to. It shows the complete address of that company, and it even states the locations they want to access within that company, right? It has to be that specific. On the right side, we have why the order was issued in the first place. Unfortunately, within our constitution and, within our, federal government, they still use the word alien, which is very, unfortunate. So with that being said, it will say exactly why they want to access the premises in the first place. Now, this section determines whether the warrant is valid or not. So as you can see here, it has the date. Am I right? So with this date, you can determine whether this is valid or not. So as you can see, December and 2006 are typed out, right? Most often than not, the entire date is typed out. It is very, very rare that you will see the entire date written out. In this case, the only digit that is written out is the number 8. And you have to see the penmanship of this number 8 as well. It is very important. The reason is because it can also be manipulated, right? So what happens if they go to your house? It's December 8th, 2006. You don't open the door. Now they can put a 1 in front of it. Now it's December 18th, 2006. Now they're knocking at your door. You don't open. They can change it to a number 2. Now it's December 28th, right? So as you can see, this warrant could be easily manipulated, right? So we want to make sure that we're also paying attention to the way it was written. So with that being said, if they show up to your house with a warrant that's 3 months and over the date, that warrant is now invalid, right? So in this situation, if they show up to your house in March or in May, anything after, February, that after March, that warrant is now invalid because it has been 3 months, right? So that means you don't have to open the door. Now we go to the right side. As you can see here, we have a signature. That is the signature of the judge that signed that warrant, that okayed that warrant. In some cases, the judge might not even be active. The judge, when the day that they signed this and the day they're going to your house and that judge is out of office, that means that the warrant is also invalid. The judge has to be active when they are going into your home. So with that being said, if they show you the warrant, you have a right to Google the name of the judge. Most likely than not, it will show you whether they are active or they are not. And now we have an administrative immigration warrant. Essentially, this administrative immigration warrant is signed by an immigration officer. It is not signed by a judge. The big difference is that with this warrant, these orders do not allow ICE to enter any non-public areas, meaning they cannot enter any private homes, any private areas or facilities. And essentially, these orders are intended to authorize ICE agents to detain people suspected of breaking immigration laws. So there's a very, very big difference when it comes to these two warrants. One of them, you are able to access private property because it is signed by a judge. With an administrative immigration warrant, it is not. It is signed by an immigration officer, and it is only to access public areas. And now, let's say immigration goes to your workplace, right? And they're inspecting the I-9s. And then some people, when they see ICE, it's a very, very, it's a scary experience, right? So we just want to make sure that, we always emphasize to remain calm. They're there for one specific thing, and is to inspect the I-9s. They are not able to raid the workplace. They're not able to go room by room. They're there for one thing, and they should be there only for that one thing. So with that being said, you have the right to remain silent. And if you were to be detained, which should not be the case, you have a right to communicate with the officer that you want to speak to a lawyer. And with that being said, I always make sure that I always add this link here, and it's finding someone if they were to be detained, right? Or if they are in the detention centers. We want to make sure that, we have this information and resource with us, just in case, if, anything were to happen, we know where to find our loved ones. We know where to find our friends. We know where to look at. And in that very moment, we know who to contact in that state that they're in. That way, we are prepared with how to help. At least in the state of Illinois, we do not have any detention centers. And the reason we always emphasize this is because most likely than not, people that are detained are going to get deported are always sent out across the country. We've had people that ended up in Kansas. We've had people that ended up in Colorado. We've had people ended up in a lot of different states to the point where their families were not able to find them. So we want to make sure that this resource is open and available for everyone that may need it. And then, the temporary legal guardianship. I always say this is for everyone, that regardless of your immigration status, right? And the reason is because if you were to have kids and they're under the age of 18 years old, we want to make sure that they have a letter, right? This letter has to be, in discussion with the lawyer, and it also has to be notarized. The reason we emphasize this letter, it's because if something were to happen to the parents, we want to make sure the parents had a backup plan on what to expect with their child, who their child should stay with, right? Who should be their official guardian after that. The last thing we want to do is for children to end up in the foster care system, right? So we want to know that parents are prepared, individuals are prepared if they have children under the age of 18, to get some type of legal representation to create this letter, and it has to be done every single year, right? So with that being said, we want to make sure that, not only the parents are protected, but as well as the children. And that was all for me today. If you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. And then we are going to stay after, the presentations for us to answer any questions. Thank you, everyone.